Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Ghosty Girls.
Yay!
Could that be our theme song?
Why not?
The Ghosty Girls.
That sounds really good.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think I should be a professional singer.
I agree. I would agree with that.
Said no one ever, but that's cool. I'm cool with it.
It's beautiful. You have the voice of Fergie and Jesus combined.
Thank you so
You're
much.
very welcome. Well, today we have a historical one for y'all. Okay? I was inspired by a recent trip to Gettysburg to do a podcast episode about Jennie Wade. I don't know if any of you guys know anything about the Battle of Gettysburg, but it was extremely bloody and violent, and there was a lot of casualties.
Brutal.
It was brutal. Now, I'm not going to get into the Civil War that much right now. I mean, we could always do a podcast episode of that in the future, but that's a lot to get into. Today, I'm just going to focus on the Jennie Wade story. So Mary Virginia Wade, known as Jennie, was the only civilian to be mortally wounded and killed during the infamous and bloody Battle of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It's important to note that her actual name was Ginny with a G, but due to her name being misspelled in newspapers after her death, she is now forever known as Jennie with a J.
Aww.
I thought that was sad.
That is sad.
There's like a monument and stuff. And
with the J?
Yeah, with her name misspelled.
That's mean.
It is, yeah. That kind of made me sad.
But I do love Gettysburg.
Same. It's one of my favorite places.
We're going to have to tell people about Abraham Lincoln, too, at some point.
Absolutely. I think we should do a podcast episode on Gettysburg, like, as a whole.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's do it. We can go there and do the podcast from one of the battlefields.
Yes, and we could also do a little EVP session there.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Word.
So Jennie was born in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on May 21st, 1843, and she lived there with her mother, 2 sisters, Georgia and Martha, and 3 brothers, John James, Samuel Swan, and Harry Marion.
I like the little name.
Samuel Swan?
Yes.
Yes, I did too. When I was writing that, I was like, Samuel Swan, that's adorable. It sounds like an actor.
It does.
Samuel Swan.
But then it also makes me in my head go, stop looking at me, Swan. If you know, you know.
Shampoo is better.
Conditioner is better. Oh, really, food? Nailed it.
Her mother was of German descent, so shout out to us Germans. Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Guten Tag, bitches.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
Did you ever play the game Wolfenstein?
No.
Oh my gosh. It's like a guy killing Nazis, but it was like a desktop game. It's like the best game ever. It was my favorite. I even beat it when I was like 9.
That's awesome.
I know.
The only desktop game I played was, what's the one where you got dysentery?
Oh, yeah. The one with the covered
wagon wheel. Yeah.
I can't remember the name.
Comment down below and tell us what it is.
Yeah, we have dementia.
Yeah.
We apologize.
Back to Jennie Wade with a G, not a J.
So it's noted that Jennie's father, James, was rarely in the picture as he suffered from numerous legal troubles and also mental health issues. Sorry, that's my cat. The actions of James brought a terrible name to the Wades, and their reputation greatly suffered. Jennie's mother, Mary Ann Philby Wade, supported her family by working as a seamstress out of their home. Jennie and her sisters also assisted her to make money. In 1852, about 10 years prior to the start of the Civil War, Mary Wade petitioned the Adams County Court of Common Pleas to have Jennie's father declared very insane. Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's like actually a term. Very insane.
As opposed to mildly insane.
Just very.
Just a touch. Ding.
And he was subsequently committed to the Adams County Alms House north of Gettysburg.
How have we not been there?
I don't know. I had never even heard of it until I started researching.
Next trip.
Yes.
Next
absolutely.
trip we gotta go.
At the start of the Civil War in 1861, it was reported that Jennie was very lonely and missed her childhood friend, who was a Union soldier named Johnston Hastings Skelly, or Jack Skelly. Isn't that cool? There's so many cool names in this one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Jack Skelly. I've seen some sources say that the two were engaged, but I was unable to confirm if they were actually engaged at the time of Jenny's death. It looks like they talked about getting married when he got back from the war, and there's definitely letters back and forth from them that seem to confirm a romantic relationship between the two, and she even kept a photo of him in her apron pocket.
Aww.
I know, it's cute. When the Confederates, or rebels as they called them, came to Gettysburg in late June of 1863, Jenny's brother Samuel, who was only 12 years old at the time, was actually captured by the rebel army when he was attempting to flee the town on horseback. Now, he was told to leave with the horse because the rebels were confiscating all the horses to use for themselves. After finding out that her little brother was captured by the rebels, this is so badass, Jenny went up to the rebel captors and begged them to release her brother, but they refused. So she actually went up to the Confederates and was like, "Hey, let my brother go." Isn't that crazy? Badass crazy.
God bless her.
I know.
That's some shit I would try to do though. I'd
That's
be like,
ballsy.
listen,
Yeah.
guys, if I bake you some cupcakes, can you please let my brother go? You can keep the horse.
I'd be like, "No, I'm taking the horse too."
Yeah, JK, we need the horse.
Give
I'll bake it
everybody
2
back.
dozen cupcakes.
So after they refused, her mother actually walked herself to the town square, stood in front of General Early, and demanded that they release her son. And they actually did.
Wow.
I know.
2 badass bees.
Bad bitch vibes. So this brings up an interesting point of how different war etiquette was back in the day as opposed to now. I've heard so many stories about how respectful the soldiers were to civilians during the Civil War. In Gettysburg during the Civil War, the rebels would tell the northern civilians to vacate their homes to get out of harm's way. So I just feel like that's kind of different mentality than if there would be a civil war today. I feel like there wouldn't be that kind of consideration.
No. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No,
that's
you're fine.
That's actually a pretty cool fact. I never knew that.
It is, yeah, I know. It's very interesting. And there's actually a famous story about a German woman who stood up to the rebels when they tried to overtake her home. And she told them she wasn't giving up her home, and they just ended up leaving. And I thought that was really cool. She just stood there and was like, "No, you're not taking over my house. Leave."
Yeah.
And they did.
Another bad bee.
I know.
Listen, Gettysburg back then was full of them.
Yes.
I'll take it.
I love it. That's probably why we identify with Gettysburg so much.
Probably.
On July 1st of 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg officially began. Now, this was an absolutely horrific battle that spilled out into the tiny town and streets, and soldiers were literally fighting right outside of civilians' homes. So if they were to look outside, they would literally see people being shot and killed right in front of your house. It's crazy.
Nope.
Homes were even turned into makeshift hospitals as there were so many wounded soldiers that needed immediate care. These same hospitals were used to perform amputations, and it was reported that there were literal heaps of amputated limbs just laying in piles all over the place outside of people's houses.
So we stayed in a bed and breakfast called the Balladary Inn.
Yes, love that place.
Love that place. And there's still bloodstains in the wood.
Yes.
In one of the rooms. I
Yep.
think it's a general room, the living room or the kitchen or something.
Yeah, and the blood stain in the floorboard is actually right by a window, and they say that the doctor would stand there, amputate the limbs, throw them out the window, and then they're supposedly buried out in the yard by a gazebo.
That's crazy.
I know.
Craziness.
It really is. But yeah, if anybody listening, if you guys have the chance to go to Gettysburg, stay at the Balladary Inn because it's amazing and they have great breakfast.
So good.
Mm-hmm. It's delicious.
Not Chili's good, but good. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go
We're
back
not
into
sponsored
that.
by Chili's, but Chili's also please sponsor us.
We love your chips.
Shortly before the battle actually began, Mary Wade, who was Jenny's mother, was terrified for her family and thought that the best and safest option was to leave their home and go to the home of her eldest daughter named Georgia Wade McClellan. I hope I'm saying that right because I've heard it pronounced different ways, but I'm going to say McClellan. Georgia also had a newborn son that she was caring for on her own because her husband was a private in the Union Army, although he was not a part of the Battle of Gettysburg. So, thank God for that. Unfortunately, the decision to move to Georgia's house ultimately sealed Jennie's fate, as the 2-story red brick house at 548 Baltimore Street would soon be right in the middle of the gunfire. Now, Jennie did everything she could to help the Union soldiers, which included bringing the soldiers food and water, baking fresh bread for them, and this put herself directly in harm's way just to help these men. The McClellan home was caught directly in the middle of the crossfire. It is reported that over 150 bullets hit that home. And at one point, a bullet came through a window and hit a bedpost that Georgia and her newborn son were laying in.
Oh my God!
How scary is that?
You can still see the bullet holes in the home too.
Yes, there's bullet holes all over that house.
Yeah, you can. So if you, again, anybody that's listening, if you do end up going to Gettysburg, definitely take the tour of the Jennie Wade house.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, and it's also haunted. But we'll get into that too.
Excellent.
It was reported that sleep was virtually impossible for the family and that all they could hear were cries and anguished groans from the wounded soldiers that were directly outside their house. So
I don't even want that image in my head.
I know. I got anxiety researching this because I put myself in their shoes and I can't even imagine. I just can't.
Well, I have like you get it. The intrusive thoughts, like you see it.
Yes.
And you can almost hear it. And
I know.
It's terrifying.
It gives me the chills thinking about looking out one of my windows and seeing people killing each other. Especially with kids in the house.
Well, yeah.
I just, there's no words.
Senseless.
Yeah. So, just to paint a picture of what was going on, there was a war going outside of the house. Gunfire everywhere. Bullets hitting the house. Bullets coming through windows. It was almost 90 degrees outside. There are dead bodies and severed limbs everywhere. Everything stunk. There were soldiers constantly banging on the door, begging for water and bread. And this is just like my version of hell on earth. I can't even. I just can't imagine. On the morning of July 3rd, the third day of the battle, Jennie was in the kitchen kneading dough to make fresh bread for the Union soldiers when a bullet traveled through not one but 2 doors and pierced her directly in the heart, killing her instantly. She was only 20 years old at the time. In the pocket of her apron, they found a picture of Jack Skelly. Oh, that's sad. It said that the hands of her corpse were still covered in flour and had dough sticking to them.
Because she was trying to feed the soldiers.
She was, yeah.
What a good soul.
I know. It said that Jennie's last words to her family were, "If there's anyone in this house that is to be killed today, I hope it's me, as George has that little baby." I know.
Again.
I know.
You put stuff into the universe sometimes. Or it's that thing sometimes you just know.
Yep.
Can you imagine, though, in your own home, thinking, because there's a war outside of your door, oh,
no,
you know, if anybody dies,
I can't. Yeah, I feel like, and in episode 1, one of the victims said something like eerily similar to that.
That's what I mean.
I know. It's
nuts.
It gives me the chills. The bullet is believed to have been from the gun of a Confederate soldier who was firing on the north side of the house. Union soldiers heard the screams of Mary and Georgia, and they rushed into the house to assist them. The Union soldiers yelled at the women and children to get down in the cellar for safety, but Mary refused to leave her daughter behind. So what the soldiers did was they wrapped her body up in a quilt and took her to the cellar. So just to paint a picture of that, her corpse was just lying in the basement while an active war was going on outside of the home, and the entire family was down there. I can't even imagine how horrific that is. Like, spending 18 hours in the cellar with your daughter's corpse. It's just horrific.
What do you even do?
I don't know.
I would have pray or hug.
I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
After her death, Jennie's mother used the dough that her daughter was making to finish up the bread for the soldiers.
I mean, that's probably what Jennie would have wanted. It seems like she was, like I said earlier, such a kind soul.
Yeah.
Had, just wanted to help.
Yep. Yep. She ended up making 15 loaves of bread for the Union soldiers. Mm-hmm. On Saturday, July 4th, the Battle of Gettysburg finally ended. That day was also her sister Georgia's birthday. What a shitty birthday.
That would be a terrible birthday.
In late July, Georgia left her family to serve as a nurse, and she tended to the wounded soldiers at a makeshift hospital in the Adams County Courthouse. So they actually converted the courthouse into a hospital. Unbeknownst to Jennie, her fiancé Jack was wounded and captured in Winchester, and he died in captivity shortly after Jennie did, and he never found out what happened to her. Yeah, the whole thing's just tragic.
Hopefully, in my mind, it was like a sweet reunion.
I know.
In the afterworld.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Right.
Funny story.
Yeah.
Not so funny story.
So Jennie was buried first in her backyard before she was officially moved to Evergreen Cemetery, where her beloved Jack Skelly is also buried. A popular legend told by the family was that her body had, quote, mummified and completely turned to stone when they removed her from the grave into the backyard. Can't really confirm if that actually happened, but that's one of the legends.
Would lime do that? There's a lot of lime in the ground out there.
You know what? It probably could have. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Jennie now has a beautiful monument at her gravesite in Evergreen Cemetery, and an American flag flies day and night next to her monument. She is the only American woman other than Betsy Ross in Philadelphia to receive this honor. I thought that was cool.
That's amazing.
President Abraham Lincoln penned a letter to Jennie's mother offering his condolences, and even requested that Georgia sit on the platform while he recited his infamous Gettysburg Address in November of 1863. It is reported that Georgia did not want to be involved in this at all, but she ended up attending at the insistence of her mother, which I can kind of see that. I would be like bitter as fuck if I went through that and my sister died and then the president was like, yo, sit up here while I make my speech. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's
an honor, but it's also like, come on.
Yeah, you're still grieving from that moment. And I feel like even though it's such a happy moment in history,
yeah,
it's still bitter, like you said, bittersweet for you. And
I'm sure at the time, I have to wonder if they actually grasped the magnitude of what was going on, like, and how big a historical moment that was.
Probably not. I mean, I'm sure that they knew it was historic, but probably not as historic as...
Yeah, like having your home made into like a monument and a museum and all that. Yeah.
And just keeping the stray bullet holes, and all that stuff in the wood to this day.
Yeah, because that house is like, it's memorialized to the time period.
It's a historical landmark.
Yeah, they even have furniture. Georgia ended up moving to Iowa, and she died in 1927 at the age of 86. So she lived a long life.
She did.
One really sad fact, her nurse's pension arrived the day after she died. So she didn't even get her pension for all that nursing that she did until she couldn't even use it. I know.
It's like in a Alanis Morissette song.
Yes. Yep. It's like, what is it? Rain on your wedding day. It's like a fly in your Chardonnay. 1871, Mary Wade finally received retribution from the government for her daughter's death, which equaled $8 a month. In 2024, that would be the equivalent of $205. So that's all she received a month for her daughter's death. I feel like they could have given her a little more than $8 a month, but...
I mean...
Yes. What do I know? I'm just some bitch.
Girl, same.
The Battle of Gettysburg lasted a total of 3 days and resulted in over 50,000 casualties. This included a little over 7,000 deaths. Many of the wounded were left in fields to die alone, their bodies rotting in the July heat. Despite the horror that this battle resulted in, it was the major turning point in the Civil War, and it was a huge victory for the Union Army. After the Civil War ended, the McClellan House soon became a popular tourist attraction and is now known as the Jennie Wade House. Now, this house has become notorious for paranormal activity, and the Jennie Wade house routinely hosts nighttime paranormal investigations. When I went to Gettysburg, we actually did this tour. It was super fun. We got a bunch of K2 hits. There was one chair upstairs that if you put the K2 on the chair, it would just go off the charts.
Really?
But if you took it off the chair, it would completely stop.
That's rare, too.
I know. I even put the K2 on the floor. Nothing.
Just the chair.
Just the chair. Yeah, we had our cell phones off and everything. And it was really cool because the tour guide actually let my sister and I go up there by ourselves with no one around. So that was really fun. Yeah. So, yeah, we heard a couple things, heard some knockings. It wasn't anything too crazy, but it definitely has a creepy feeling. I will say that. Now, the house is pretty much preserved to look the way it did in 1863, aside from some very minor renovations. The bullet holes all still remain. There's also some morbid mementos in the house, including a blood-stained wood plank. The cellar is also set up with a recreation of Jenny's corpse laying on the bench. I got a really creepy vibe when I went in the cellar.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and then just seeing a mannequin down there in a quilt, it just bothered me.
Well, and then that's also you imagine yourself down there for
it makes
18
you
hours.
feel like you're there. Yeah, can't even imagine. There's a legend that if you place your finger in the bullet hole in the door, you will become engaged within a year. And there's multiple reports of women who tried this, and they did in fact become engaged shortly after. It could be a coincidence, but a lot of people believe that it's Jenny's ghost granting the wishes of women to have the life she never could. Isn't that sad?
She's a good soul.
I know.
I feel like she would be our friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would call her by her real name.
Jenny.
Yes. Still makes me angry. As far as paranormal claims go, people allege to have seen two women in mourning outside of the home standing at the spot where Jenny would have been buried, and it's believed that these are the spirits of Mary and Georgia. Now, anyone that's been to Gettysburg before, I feel like so many people have had experiences there. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like you can go to Gettysburg and be like, no, it's not haunted. Like, yeah, there's just so much going on there. And even if you don't see or hear anything, like, I just feel like the energy there is very heavy.
100%.
Yeah, it just feels heavy there.
So one of the places that we went when we were there together was the, as weird as it sounds, the visitor center.
Yeah.
They have that beautiful circular picture.
Yes, it's a panoramic
scene, a battle scene.
Yeah.
That was hand painted, right?
Yes, it was hand painted. And don't they have an actual like cannon there too?
They do. Yeah. They have the whole museum. They have a movie you can watch, but I specifically remember during the viewing of the panoramic art.
Yes.
They do like a story and each piece kind of lights up and you hear the
so cool
bullets. But I remember you going, I have to leave. I feel like I'm going to be sick. And as soon as you left, you were fine. It was just the energy in that room.
Yeah. It's just something about it. I don't know if it was just like, mentally placing myself there. It just bothered me. I don't know. Again, if you are ever in the area, definitely visit Gettysburg. I mean, go to the visitor center, do all of the things, because I feel like everyone should see that at some point in their life, because it's just a huge part of history.
Devil's Den, the covered bridge.
Love Devil's Den. Yes, Saks, covered bridge. We should do an episode on that.
We should.
Yeah.
It's a good restaurant.
The Dobbin House.
The Dobbin frickin' house.
Yes. If you go to Gettysburg, definitely go to the Dobbin House. They have amazing food, amazing drinks, and they're all in like colonial clothing, or would you call it like period clothing? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that right.
And they're nice, but their food is on point.
Yes, and it's always good service.
Yeah.
Like, I've been there so many times, and we've never had a bad meal, never had a bad server, nothing.
Even their bread is good.
Oh my God, their bread is amazing. Yeah, it's so good. So activity in the Jennie Wade house cellar seems to be related to the father, and there's claims that men have been targeted, especially if they're making jokes about Jenny, which who would even do that? Ugh. But our tour guide, I haven't seen this episode of Ghost Adventures, the one with Zach Bagans, the one who's an incredible douche.
What was that?
He's possessed like every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Everywhere he goes, he goes into the bathroom and he's possessed by something.
Did you guys hear that? He's possessed by his own turd.
But yeah, the tour guide there said that Zach Bagans attempted to be inappropriate with the mannequin set up in the cellar.
What a
That
douche.
pisses me off. Who does that?
Zach Bagans.
An ass. Yeah, he's an ass.
Yeah.
Many people that have visited there, they claim to see ghostly silhouettes in the windows, glowing orbs, and they feel an impending sense of doom in the home. So yeah, it seems like people have had a lot of personal experiences.
As did you.
Yeah,
Which is cool.
exactly.
Next time I go there, I'm going to have to do the paranormal tour too.
Absolutely.
Couldn't do it last time I was there.
We should go and do a live EVP session.
That'd be fun.
It would.
Comment down below if you'd like to come with us via YouTube or Facebook and do a live EVP.
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't know what an EVP is, it's an electric voice phenomenon where we ask questions and hope something answers us in the dark.
But the difference between an EVP and a disembodied voice, not that anyone really cares, but, I'm going to just talk about it.
Yeah, why not?
The difference is that with an EVP, you don't hear that voice while you're sitting there asking questions. So you actually go back and you listen, and that's when you hear it. Yeah, and that's the story of Jennie Wade.
And a little blip on EVPs.
And a little blip on EVPs.
Look at us go, man.
Yeah. I feel like we should definitely do an episode on ghost hunting now.
Yeah, go through all the equipment and stuff.
Yeah, because that's just like that. I mean, that's how we met. It's special to us.
Yeah,
and I feel like everybody enjoys a good EVP sesh.
Who doesn't?
And
just to learn about the equipment, and we can have some fun friends on too that might know a little more than us.
Yeah, drop us a comment if you'd like to see that. Well,
I'd like to see it.
Same.
Yes, queen.
Well, thank you very much for joining us for episode 2 of the Ghosty Ghouls.
I thought we were the ghosty girls.
We are. I just wanted to say ghouls. Because I'm feeling crazy.
The Golden Girls.
Yeah, side note, we were going to name this podcast the Golden Ghouls, but then we were like, that's kind of hard to say. So
we can still say it. What was our theme song again? We'll end on that. The Ghosty Girls. Nailed it.
We'll see you next time. And next time we are going to do a mysterious death case that is very close to home for us. Another case from Delaware. So watch out for that one.
Bye.
Bye.